Welcome to Downtown Sports. My name is Stephen Brown. It's a little bit of a joke going on in the TSN newsroom. They think that they're witty with the nicknames, and I promised that I would be a good sport and switch up the intro for one of the videos at least. But we got a lot of stuff to talk about in today's video. We got to talk about the Maple Leafs in their last couple of games, their struggles in 3-on-3 overtime, Morgan Rielly being out for the foreseeable future, a setback in TJ Brodie's oblique injury, what the blue line is even going to look like for the next couple of weeks, and some trade rumors. Before we get rolling any further, if you're new here and you've enjoyed this video by the end of it, I'm trying to hit 8,000 subscribers by my birthday in January. It would mean a lot to me if you could help me get there. Yesterday's game against the Islanders was very frustrating because I was sitting there watching the game at work and I'm like, they're probably playing their best first period all season long, but they're not getting any bounces to go their way. They're 100% giving up the first goal in this game. And then a couple of minutes after that, Noah Dobson throws one on net, banks off of David Kampf and beats Erik Källgren, and the Maple Leafs go into the first intermission down 1-0. But then John Tavares scores against his former team, and that's always a lot of fun. Austin Matthews gets into it. He scores his 9th of the season, and the Maple Leafs are up 2-1 in a game where they've controlled the majority of the shot attempts, the actual shots, and the scoring opportunities in all 3 periods. But then Erik Källgren coughs it up from behind the net, basically handing Josh Bailey the goal, sends it into overtime, and the Maple Leafs, who have been shocking in 3-on-3 overtime this year, lose the game. We mentioned that John Tavares did score in that game against the Islanders. He's now on pace for 45 goals this season, and I just want to take a second to appreciate the captain, because for him to come into this year after the year that he had last year, where he was scoring a bunch of goals, putting up a bunch of points, but just didn't really look like himself on a consistent basis because of the injury that he suffered in the previous playoffs against the Montreal Canadiens, where he spent that entire offseason just recovering, and he came into the season kind of behind the 8 ball. We weren't really sure what to expect from him this year, if it was going to be another declining season for him, but he switched up his offseason training regimen. He came into this training camp ready to go, suffered the oblique injury, wasn't sure whether or not he was going to play in the home opener. For him to be on pace for 45 goals 20 games into this season, yeah, John Tavares is great. The Maple Leafs fall to 1-5 in 3-on-3 overtime this season, and Sheldon Keefe a couple of days ago said that it was kind of a low priority thing, but when you're leaving that many points on the board, I guess you kind of have to make it a little bit of a priority, right? Find some time at the end of practice to kind of work on things, because it seemed like they were just having a lot of trouble getting started on offense, which is weird because there's an awful lot of room out there, and it's maybe just a thing where they're overthinking it. I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see until the next game goes into overtime to see if it made any difference. But of course, in that game, Morgan Rielly, colliding a little bit awkwardly with one of the Islander players, leaves the game, doesn't return, and Darren Dreger tweeting out today that he's probably going to be out for the next 4 to 6 weeks, which is interesting. The Maple Leafs lose Jake Muzzin at the start of the season to an injury, and then a couple of weeks after that, TJ Brodie goes down with an oblique injury, and the update on him is that it's not progressing as well as they would have hoped, so he's not going to be traveling with the team on their upcoming 4-game road trip, and now Morgan Rielly's going to be out for the next 4 to 6 weeks, so the time between now and when TJ Brodie gets back over the next week or two could be disastrous or a pleasant surprise. Morgan Rielly has been on the ice for the most amount of goals for and against that of any Maple Leafs defender so far this year, and a lot of people were really getting on him in the first month of this season for his defensive game. I mean, they've been on him about that for the last number of years, which is fair because he's not very good defensively, but I think the next 4 to 6 weeks are going to serve as a reminder to people that the good far outweighs the bad when it comes to this player, and what he does for them in transition and offensively at 5-on-5 is not easily replaceable. But at the same time, it's also a huge opportunity for guys like Rasmus Sandin and even Timothy Liljegren to step up and show that they can handle this kind of responsibility. Because if they can swim and not sink, that doesn't mean that the Leafs don't need Morgan Rielly. That means that when he comes back, this defensive core is going to be that much better. Hearing that the Maple Leafs may need to lean on Rasmus Sandin for the next little while may make people nervous, because this is a guy who came into training camp late because of the contract negotiations, started playing on the right side really for the first time in his career, and didn't look comfortable at all, making some costly giveaways in his own zone on the offensive blue line as well. And then Sheldon Keefe came out with this quote last week saying that he's low on confidence at this time and that we need to help him get back to being himself. But there is optimism here, because to make him feel more comfortable, they've moved him back to the left side, and they've started playing him with Timothy Liljegren, who Sandin has said is his closest friend on this team, and he's played with him for a number of years, either with the Marlies or with Sweden in international play. And the last two games that they've played together against the Buffalo Sabres and the New York Islanders, mind you, have been two of his best games this year. He's back on the left side. He's playing with a familiar partner. Things are going well. He's getting more comfortable. And then Austin Matthews gets clipped knee on knee by Oliver Wahlstrom, and Sandin drops the gloves and sticks up for him. He's got some jam going on in his game right now. I guess we just got to hope that he can step up and really help out with Morgan Rielly out of the lineup for the next 4 to 6 weeks. Of course, there's other guys on that blue line that can step up outside of Sandin and Liljegren. It's just an opportunity for the young guys to do it for the first time, I guess, because Sheldon Keefe was asked, how much can you push 39-year-old Mark Giordano? And Keefe just says, I keep asking him if he wants days off or, to take it easy in practice or whatever like that. And Giordano just keeps saying, whatever you got, just give it to me. And to give Mark Giordano credit, he's been awesome for the Maple Leafs to start this season. I'm not doubting his skill, but I'm worried about what all of these extra minutes in November and December are going to do to him come March and April. The D pairings at practice today were Giordano and Hall, Sandin with Liljegren, and then Jordy Ben with Mac Hollowell, who's supposed to be making his NHL debut on Thursday. Hollowell was drafted by the team in 2018, so he's 24 years old making his NHL debut. He's a right-handed shooting defenseman who's 5'9" and 187 pounds, but I wouldn't read too much into his size because this is a guy who plays a lot bigger than what he actually is. I'll leave a link of a clip in the description of this video of him just absolutely dumping a guy who's a lot bigger than him in his own zone, just going back to pick up the puck. And I've talked to people who have watched him play a lot more than I have, both at the junior level and at the American Hockey League level, and they've described him just as a very smart player who makes simple plays, can evade pressure in his own zone, handles incoming forecheckers very well, and he's got 9 points in 11 games so far for the Marlies, so I'm excited for him to get the opportunity. But now, on to those trade rumors that I mentioned off the top of the video. Elliot Friedman saying in the recent edition of the 32 Thoughts podcast that the Maple Leafs have some interest in Anaheim Ducks forward Frank Vatrano. But Friedman also mentioned that the Maple Leafs may have a hard time fitting in Frank Vatrano's cap hit at $3.65 million for the next 2 seasons after this one. And if you're interested in knowing whether or not the Maple Leafs can afford that contract and maybe another player, I made a video covering this exact subject a couple of days ago here on the channel that I'll leave linked above the screen and at the end of this one for you guys to check out. At 5'11" and just under 200 pounds, Frank Vatrano's a bit of a feisty forward who's been on pace for around 20 goals or a little bit more than that in each of the last 4 seasons. Vatrano's an effective two-way forward. He can carry the puck well. He's not going to hold you back defensively. He's got that shot, like we said. If I had to give a comparable for him, I'd say he's kind of like if Alex Kerfoot could actually shoot the puck, which sounds like a game changer. I'm not sure what it would cost the Maple Leafs to acquire Frank Vatrano, but he sounds like an intriguing option that we'll have to keep an eye on. Now, this was kind of funny because they were also rumored to be interested in right-handed shooting defenseman Connor Timmins, who the Arizona Coyotes acquired at the beginning of last season, along with a first-round pick from the Colorado Avalanche in exchange for Darcy Kemper. And if you're looking at the amount of games that Timmins has played over the last couple of seasons, he's struggled with some injuries, but clearly a talented player because he was picked 32nd overall back in 2017. And I realized all of that before even noticing that he was a former Sault Ste. Marie Greyhound. So, of course, the Toronto Maple Leafs have interest in him. I don't know really else what to make of it other than it was funny that I remembered and realized all that other stuff before seeing that he was a former Sault Ste. Marie Greyhound. But that's going to be it for the video, guys. Make sure to like the video if you did like it and subscribe for more because more is always on the way. And guys, I'll see you again in the next one.